Awesome. Well, hello, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for being here today for our annual Mental Health Over the Holidays virtual information session. My name is Maya, and I am here with WorkBC Centre Westshore Sooke. I'm joined by my colleague Brianna, and we have Lana today here from YMind to present, um, as well as Mariana, pardon me, from Bridges for Women. So we've got a great session lined up for today, and we will get right started. Just to look at our agenda, we're going to do a quick WorkBC Employment Services overview before we hand it over to YMind for their presentation at around 1:10. And then at 1:50, we will have our presentation from Bridges for Women. Um, just to begin our session today, we would like to acknowledge that WorkBC Centre Westshore Sooke recognizes the traditional territories of the Esquimalt, Songhees, Sauk, Sianu, and Pacheedaht First Nations on which our offices are located, and we're very proud to provide employment-related services to these nations. Diving in just to do a quick overview of our employment services. WorkBC Employment Services, they are free and available to all unemployed British Columbians who are seeking employment and are legally eligible to work in BC. There are some exceptions to this where employed individuals might also be eligible, such as those who are in precarious employment or at risk of losing their current job, or those who are underemployed British Columbians with a disability. WorkBC centers are located all across British Columbia and offer a range of services that can support job seekers to improve their employment readiness, to find new employment, or to maintain their current employment. Additionally, any BC job seeker can access the self-serve resource areas in WorkBC centers. If you'd like to know a little bit more or follow up this session and look at our website just to go over anything that we've talked about today, you can see our websites and contact information is listed here on the right-hand side, along with our hours for our office. The Resource Center, like I mentioned, is open to all job seekers, and this is a place where you can come to use our computers for any of your job search needs, access a printer, photocopier, or anything for your job search documents. And we have wonderful staff members who are available to assist you if you have any questions with the work that you are doing. And these resource services are provided on a drop-in basis, so you are welcome to come into our center anytime during our hours of operation. One of the key pillars of our services that we have are the incredible workshops that we offer, which cover all aspects of job search and job retention to help you achieve your employment goals. This looks like topics like resume building, career planning, interview skills, and we also have specialized workshops such as our Mature Workers workshop. Looking at those topics in a little bit more details, we also have skills and focus, career planning, networking essentials. We dive deep into resume essentials as well as cover letter. We do interview skills workshops, financial literacy, as well as one-to-one basic computer skills. So lots of excellent resources that are available to support you. Next, we also have our wage subsidy program. This is an incredible program that's designed to assist people who are unemployed or underemployed, and give them an opportunity to enhance their skills on the job. And the way that this program does this is by assisting the employer when they are hiring someone who may lack all of the necessary skills for a position. And we support them by offering a percentage of your wages for a duration of up to 24 weeks. Additionally, we also offer personal employment planning. So this looks like individualized sessions with an employment advisor to build your return to work action plan, and help you define your personalized path to success. Beyond these options as well, we also offer job start support and job sustainment services. So when you're starting a new position, job start support looks like us providing things such as boots, scrubs, tools, or even short courses such as food safe and first aid. And these can be made available to you in order to support you in starting a new role. Under our job sustainment services, these are available in order to help you resolve any issues that are impacting your ability to maintain your employment. And this can look like on-the-job or in-office support from our employment advisors. And the areas that they can offer you support in are with things like mediating disputes with your employers, learning new procedures in the workplace, or simply just gaining insight into today's workplace culture. Last but certainly not least, we also offer an incredible job listings and labor market info newsletter called Job Links. So when you subscribe to this is bringing job leads, local employment information, as well as information on local employment events and programs directly to your inbox. So it is a great centralized resource for local job opportunities and related information. If you'd like to learn anything more about all these services or review any of this information, we will be sending out the session recording at the end, but you're also welcome to visit our website here at the bottom to go over any of the information that we just mentioned. In terms of registering for WorkBC services, these are kind of the key areas that we have. So we have our case managed employment services, such as working with our employment advisors, our self-serve services, such as our resource rooms, which, as I mentioned, are open to all job seekers. And on the more specialized side of things, we offer apprentice services for people who are seeking financial supports while they're attending apprenticeship training, as well as the ability to offer you assistive technology services for those people who are needing supports within existing or their upcoming imminent employment. So what does registering for WorkBC services look like? In terms of our center, this will look like calling us or coming in person. And when you do, a WorkBC representative will take you through our eligibility screening. The key eligibility for being able to access case manager services are that you're a Canadian citizen, BC resident, or permanent resident. You must not be receiving any special benefits such as medical EI or maternity benefits, be over the age of 16, provide proof of identity, and be unemployed or working less than 19 hours per week or be at risk of losing employment, as well as not being in full-time school or planning to return to full-time studies in the near future. Once you're walked through this eligibility screening, if you are eligible, you'll be booked in to attend a 1-hour orientation. These are available on Wednesdays at 1 p.m. And once you've gone through this orientation, then you'll then be guided through completing the registration, which does require having your ID and SIN necessary to complete that. That is the end of just our little bird's eye view of our WorkBC employment services. But to stay up to date in terms of our upcoming events, you can scan this QR code on the right side of the screen. So we put on very similar events of this nature, but also employment related events throughout the year. This is a great way to stay up to date with upcoming opportunities. And on the left, to look at sessions that we've done recently, including this one, will be uploaded to our YouTube, and you can access that by scanning the QR code on the left. And if at any point in time during the session you'd like to come back to this so that you're able to screen that, just let me know and we'll come back. Other than that, this is the contact information for both of our centers. We are out of, in the West Shore, we are out of on Jacqueline Road, and in Sooke, we're on Church Road. So there's 2 offices for you to access there. Does anyone have any questions here? Saying. And I don't think I noted at the beginning of the session, but if at any point in time you would like to ask a question, feel free to come off mute. You can put a message in the chat, or if you would like to wait to the end, that's acceptable as well. Without any further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Lana for a presentation from YMIT.
Hi. Now I am used to working on Zoom, so I'm going to I had it set up, now I'm going to find it again, but maybe while I am doing that, I'll just give you a little bit of background on myself. So I have been, wait a minute. It's wanting to come up. Okay, so I've been the program manager for this program for the last 2.5 years. Previous to that, I was a facilitator of the program, but it was just kind of a part-time gig. I was for 25 years working as an employment counselor with youth at risk, so similar to the START program that WorkLink has. So, and previous to that, I was a chef. So I am well acquainted with stress, let's just say. And one of the reasons that I was drawn to this program was kind of a natural evolution from the things that I was teaching in for the youth at risk in regards to communication skills and job search techniques. because just to kind of do a bit of a segue, that is how this program came about, actually, was that the Y over in Vancouver has a youth employment contract. And one of the things that they realized was that one of the biggest barriers to employment was anxiety and stress. So they used some Y funding that would give them some money to put together a program that would support that. And there was a fellow down in the States, and he basically just gave them this curriculum. So they did some fine tuning and some pilot programs over in Vancouver. And then once it became what they thought was a fulsome program, started branching it out to the other Ys in BC. So now other Ys in BC are using this program. It went across Canada during after COVID, because there was a bit of COVID money. So now there's some across Canada that are still doing it, but it's predominantly here in BC. Now I make partnerships with different organizations up and down the island to deliver the program. It can be in a school. So we have a teen program. We have the 13 to 18, and then the youth, which is 18 to 30. We also have mind medicine that's for Indigenous populations, and we're working on an upcoming newcomer model. So there's lots of different variations and ways that we're supporting people. For people that are over 30 years of age, the YMCA BC over in Vancouver does a virtual program for people 31 plus. So there's a lot of availability there. Yeah, so that kind of gives you an idea of me and the background of the program. So I'll just kind of jump in, and yeah, you're welcome to, if you raise a hand, I might not be able to see it, but hopefully the other people will see it, because I might ask you some questions and just to get some input from you. So we'll start out and just kind of look at what is anxiety. So everything that I'm going to present to you here today is from the perspective of this program, where we're using acceptance and commitment therapy, which is came about similar to the time of CBT, but it's different. So it's ACT. And yeah, so how we break down anxiety is we look at our thoughts. So what are you thinking in this moment? What are some of the other emotions that are coming up for you when you're in a situation? And what is your body going through? Where are you feeling it in your body? So one of the points of mindfulness that we do is to really get in touch with what is happening right now in this moment, because it helps you to get back into your body, where sometimes your head is making up a bunch of stories about things. So we'll look at that. What is mindfulness? Some people think mindfulness it's meditation, and I can't do that. Well, meditation is one form of mindfulness, but it's not everything. Is mindfulness about calming down? Not exactly. It's about spending some time in. And spending time in, that means looking at yourself. What is happening with yourself is really good for your brain, because it builds some connections and some brain muscles, if you will, to what is happening and being acquainted with yourself and who you are. And I think we have a lot of things like telephones that are distracting us and taking away from ourselves. So it's a good reminder to come back to self and spend some time there. So if we look from the perspective of John Kabat-Zinn, he is the fellow that created this little clover leaf here. So it's paying attention. So you're literally going on purpose, saying, okay, right now I'm going to become mindful and pay attention in this present moment and non-judgmentally. So a lot of times we get pulled in different directions and can create more stress for ourselves, because we're judging what is happening internally as good or bad or right or wrong. So if we can take that judgment away, it can be really helpful. So when we are not in the present moment, we're usually ruminating about things that have happened in the past. So we're going over past bad experiences, or we're thinking about the future. And this is kind of where anxiety lives, is in this future place. So our mind is wondering and worrying what's going to happen in the future. And then we miss what is happening in this present moment. So if you think of mindfulness, you can do it at any time. You can set your watch or your phone or your clock, anytime, the timer on the oven, to set an alarm and just take that intention time to just stop and be present in the moment. What am I thinking? What am I feeling? You could be drinking a cup of tea and you can really sit with that cup of tea and smell it and feel the warmth, taste it, just be present with that cup of tea. So that's kind of the premise to mindfulness, is not getting pulled either from the past or the future, and just becoming present with what's happening right now. Because right now, things are pretty good. Like, we're okay. We're all sitting here or watching this presentation. It's okay. So that's that piece of mindfulness. So here's a quick one little keep in your pocket kind of practice that you can use, is 5 things. So if you find yourself, and it's trying to get yourself, if you become really aware of your body, you notice that you're getting activated about something, and instead of kind of letting it escalate, is to just stop. What are 5 things that you can see? Look around the room, look outside, and just take note of those things. What are 4 things that you can hear? What are 3 things that you can touch? And it can be like, what does your shirt feel like on your skin if you're not in a place where you're touching other things? And then what are 2 things that you can smell and 1 thing that you can taste? If you don't have a flavor in your mouth, just imagine a flavor that you maybe is one that's pleasant for you, that you like. So that's something that you can just sort of keep in your mind at all times. But really, to become mindful, it doesn't take, you can use like those pre-recorded scripts for things, but really you can do mindfulness activities of when you're washing the dishes, put in the water, notice the smell of the soap that you use and feel the temperature. What is it? The cloth in your hand, like, just to break down all those separate things in the moment. It can be a walking meditation. I noticed sometimes when I'm doing a walking meditation that I realize, my hips aren't moving. So then I can bring some attention to my hips and freeing them up a little bit, having them move a little bit more instead of this rigid soldier walk that I sometimes tend to do. And then that creates a little bit more ease in what I'm doing. So that's another thing that you can do. So acceptance and commitment therapy, it is letting go of the idea that something is wrong with you. A lot of times people think, I'm having this anxiety, there's something wrong with me, then that story then creates more anxiety and it can start to spiral and escalate. So the premise of ACT is to be with yourself in a more caring way while moving forward in your life in a meaningful way. You might think, what is acceptance? So here's an example. So it's a good one because yesterday, this was pretty intense moment around rain. So everything that came with that, those fears, those, the house is going to flood. I don't like rain. I don't have the proper raincoat, like all those things that come into play. But with acceptance, it's raining. Yes, it's raining. And if we take that premise of acceptance to what emotion that you're feeling in the moment that might be uncomfortable, and instead of judging it again as good or bad, and just saying, I feel sad. Yeah, I feel sad right now. And no judgment to it at all. It's just, this is what is presenting itself to me in this moment. And when we talk about acceptance, what we are not talking about is if there's an external situation that's happening to you that isn't good. We're not saying you need to accept that. This is purely about your internal process of what's happening and accepting that moment. So here is, this is what we call in acceptance and commitment therapy, the hexaflex. So in the program itself, each session, so it's 7 sessions, we go through each part of this hexaflex and kind of deep dive into it. And what does it mean? So what is present moment all about? So that would be the first session that we would get into. With the youth program, it's 2.5 hours. And we're having discussions and experiential exercises so that you can experience what that means. What does this present moment mean? We would do some mindfulness practices, which is usually a scripted, like I said, you don't need one, but we do have these scripted ones that you can do. And then the second session that we do is experiencing acceptance. So practicing that non-judgmental experience of what is happening to you emotionally. And then we get into cognitive diffusion. So this is where we're talking about our thoughts and how we sometimes get hooked into thoughts that aren't always helpful or supportive to us in being able to move through our life. So there's ways for us to disconnect and unhook from these unsupportive thoughts that bring us down. Now, we might have some thoughts that are very supportive and are very helpful. We don't need to get rid of those, but sometimes there's like a radio station of doom and gloom that is playing in the background of our lives and in our minds. And it's how can we unhook from this kind of scenario? And then we'll talk about self as context. So the observing self, so being conscious of ourselves, and that there's another part of ourselves that is actually quite peaceful, and being able to access that. And it's just another way of taking a tool to separate ourselves from our thoughts. During this session, we also talk about self-compassion. Self-compassion is something that we typically give to our friends and our family, but we don't always apply to ourselves. So we'll take a look at what does that look like, and how can we give a little bit more of that for ourselves. And then in the program, we jump around a little bit. So then we go to our values. We determine what is it that is important in our lives right now, what's important to us, and how we kind of want to move through the world. So these are not goals. These are more of how we might get to those goals. So what are things that are important to us? Because when we're not living a life in line with our values, that can create some inner stress. If we're doing things that we're not realizing that are against our values, this can kind of bring some light to that. And then this is the action part of ACT, is taking a step. So we're looking at what our values are, and then taking some steps forward in our life, just baby steps that then bring us more in line with our values to help us get on a path to a life that's something more that we want to live. So like this says, putting all these pieces together, that creates some psychological flexibility that then helps us maneuver and flow when we're handling the problems in our lives that are it's more internally processed and internally motivated. So we're not doing the shoulds that might be from somebody else. So how does anxiety help us? If anybody has some thoughts, they're welcome to raise their hand or put it in the chat, or just unmute, because I'm just curious if people have any thoughts about how anxiety can actually be our friend. It's not the enemy. Yes, maintaining awareness for sure. Another way is that it can help us stay prepared. So you're going to move. It's that then goes, what do I need to do? That anxiety says we need to pay attention to some things. We need to pack. What does that look like? How do we put things together? If you're going on a camping trip, then there's things to think about. It's a little bit more survival motivated when you're camping, depending upon where you're going. But you might want to have some way to hang your food up in the tree so the bear doesn't get it, and just little things like that. So anxiety is there to help us prepare. And now back in the caveman days, anxiety kept us alive. So it's part of who we are. It's in our system. But if that same level of anxiety is present when you want to go shopping or drive in a car, that it was back when a saber-toothed tiger was chasing us, then that's not really helpful in our lives. And that's when maybe you want to take a moment to do some things to take care of yourself when that anxiety is coming up. So what anxiety, is coupled with other emotions. So what uncomfortable emotions do we wish we didn't have to feel? Any thoughts that come up around that? That's okay. I will say some because there's a lot. There's things like fear and shame and embarrassment, sadness. Yes, fear. So some of the ones that might be a little bit more sticky. And again, if we take the judgment of it, that this is good or bad or positive or negative, and just say that these are uncomfortable emotions, it can kind of take away the sting of them, and that level of I have to get rid of this in some way. So what are some of the things that we do to not feel them? What are some actions that we will sometimes do?
We may try to distract ourselves
Yeah, so
with
what do we do?
music shows, something like that.
Yeah, sometimes, yeah, in denial, practice escapism. But if we like really bear down into what are those actions that we do, some of us will drink alcohol. Some of us will sit and watch the TV for long periods of time. Some of us use drugs. Some of us will maybe gossip about other people because then it kind of takes the edge off of what we're feeling right now. Some people gamble. So this is where kind of addictive behaviors come into play, smoking, vaping, those things. So how those things work for us in the short term is it may provide comfort. It may give us a break. It may give us that escape, that rest, if you will, from how we're experiencing that emotion in the moment. And if we take away the good or the bad or the right or the wrong and just say, is this working for me right now? Am I aware that I'm doing this and that I'm doing it because I'm wanting to escape? That's a better place than I'm doing it unconsciously and I'm just reaching out for these things in order to cope. And because sometimes, taking a break and sitting down and watching TV because you've had a hectic day, like that's okay. So let's take the judgment away from it. And then we can look at, is this working for me or going to work for me in the long run? So if we look at how some of these things come into play for us in the long term, it can create things like health problems, addictions, financial repercussions, lost relationships. So again, it's bringing awareness to, is this action that I'm doing going to facilitate for me in the long run to get where I want to go? So we can kind of take a look at at what are these actions that we're doing. So if we go back to the uncomfortable emotions that we might be feeling, here's some ways that you can accept your feelings, because they're put there. There's nothing wrong with them. They've maybe helped you cope in the past. So we don't want to push them away, because it's that struggle and that pushing away that creates the stress and the suffering that you have. So one of them is just reminding yourself that you're human and you have these emotions. Another way is connecting in with your body and where do you feel this emotion, and maybe spend some time with it. And then breathing into it. So you're getting in contact with your breath while you're experiencing the emotion. And then showing some kindness to yourself, and know that this is a difficult moment. So how can I take care of myself in this moment? Some people, artistic, creative people, like to paint or draw or create, could be a little hand puppet. I don't know. It's up to you. And then another way is to imagine that you're holding this feeling gently in your hand like you would a butterfly. So it's kind of like this cherished part of you that you don't need to fight with or run away from. I mean, what a lovely thought to hold anger, in the palm of your hand loosely and gently, because it is a part of you. And I really love this saying here for emotions. It's like, because it stops that struggle, is thank you for showing up. I love you. Stay as long as you like. So that's part of I think it's a Rumi poem, but just that one sentence there. It just says, it's okay. Come hang out. Like, I'm fine with you. We're good. You're a part of me. So then if we kind of move, there's the emotions and some ways to cope with them. The next step is to look at kind of your thoughts. So there's different types of thoughts that we have that create this stress and anxiety. So siding with the future, with the anxiety, it's the what happens if, the unknown, I don't know. And then the past, this always happens to me. Rules that we then create for ourselves. A lot of these, the three below, can be from previous people, whether it's our parents, society, social media, whatever, that dictate sometimes this is what you should or shouldn't be. So rules, reasons, and judgments that we have. So if you take a moment to kind of think of what is your normal thought pattern when you're feeling stressed, they usually fall under some of these categories here. So when we look at thoughts and ways to kind of disconnect from them, the struggle happens when you embody that thought. So if I firmly believe, and I know, in brackets, that no one likes me, so I just say no one likes me, and I'm embodying that thought, then that lives with me. I'm identified with that. That's who I am. But if we take that and say, I'm noticing that I'm having the thought that no one likes me. Now we've separated that thought from ourselves, and it's just kind of like a tape that's playing in our mind. So I'm noticing that I'm having this thought. So there's a part of you that is noticing this. So here's some other methods that you can use to disconnect from that thought. So I've just mentioned that one, separating me from the thought. Another one is you can take that thought, that little tape, that sentence that plays, and make it silly, make it like Bugs Bunny is saying it, or Beavis and Butthead or something, because it will take away. I'm a big lover of SpongeBob SquarePants, so it just takes that what can be, a really harsh thought that you might be having, and it takes away its strength. from it having a hold over your thoughts and who you are. Another way is just to say, thank you, mind. Thanks for sharing that sentence, that piece. Sometimes just being curious about that thought, like, that's an interesting thought. You know, sometimes you can think of, I wonder where when I first thought that thought, where did it come from? How is this thought serving me? Is it helpful? Is it not helpful? So become kind of intellectualizing and doing a deep dive into that. And then again, creating a thought creature. So here is this creature, and this is what it looks like. Bill Hader does a really nice little video because he has a lot of anxiety. It's on YouTube, and he talks about his anxiety and that it's this little creature guy that sits on his shoulder, and he actually, you know, waits for it to happen. And then he said, oh, I knew you would be here. Here you are. Come on, buddy. Like, we got to go into this audition or whatever. Let's go together. So you're kind of creating a friend with that, or it can, if you make a hand puppet, I don't know, making a sock puppet, I'm thinking, it can be, what is this thing saying right now? So that it separates, again, it's the premise is to separate you from these unhelpful thoughts. Now, if we take this a step further, imagine that there's a part of you that is like the sky. Emotions and experiences are like the clouds and the weather. And the clouds and the weather come and go and they pass. They don't, like, it's not raining all the time, although it might feel like it in the winter in Victoria. And the sun is here, but not all the time. So we know that these things eventually pass. But if you've ever flown in a plane, we know that once you get above the clouds, like, it's beautiful blue sky and it's peaceful and calm and it's always there. So know that there's a part of you that, and this is a bit of a stretch, so I'm not going to get into it, but it's like there's a part of you that's noticing that you're having this thought. And that part of you is caring. If you want to think about it, that part of you is love. So in a way, this program, it starts to step into spirituality in a bit, so that if you think through the mindfulness practices, that there's a part of you that you can access that knows your whole story, who you are, what's happened to you, and is non-judgmental and understands that that is why you're doing what you're doing, and that it's okay, and that if you can be in that calm place, then it can be like a helpful friend. Oh, sorry, here's a little depiction of that. So from that embodying to separating myself from the thought, and then here's this part of myself that notices that this is a thought. It's a bit of a leap. It's kind of like that next step after doing the program, because it's a good one. It's worthwhile to get there. So this self-compassion piece, a caring friend, like, if you can think of a time when you noticed your mind not being kind to you. Sometimes in life, we can take the place of, like, previous bullies even, and, you know, if you stop and think of it, it's like, that's not a great way to talk to myself. So what would, a caring and loyal friend to say to you in that moment? What would you do for someone that you care about? What would a caring friend do for you? And then, can you be a caring friend to yourself when you have difficult emotions or thoughts? So what is it that you need to do? It could be journaling. It could be, I need to call a friend. So it's up to you to personalize and decide what it is for you that will be helpful. And the work that we do is based on Kristen Neff's work. And she talks about what is fierce self-compassion. And to me, my interpretation of that is that it's when we need to take that self-compassion externally and say, I might have to take someone to court to take care of myself. I might have to go and have an uncomfortable but important conversation with somebody who maybe is invading and my boundaries. So that's where that fierce self-compassion is like, I'm going to step forward externally into the world to take care of myself because it's needed. And then values. So if you don't know what your values are, highly recommend you kind of getting, because it's very, very valuable to know what you value. It's ironic to say that, but so first is to find and choose what your values are. And then once you've chosen them, really take them like these are mine and I own them and they're important to me. So you stand with them and then act on your values. So to live a meaningful life, you must first know what our important values are. And it can really help you define if there's a breakdown in a relationship. Sometimes it comes down to values. You just have different values. So if you're aware of yours, then it's easy to explain to people why you're doing the things that you're doing and to step and behind yourself and support yourself with that. So, there's lots of different Barrett's values is one of a list that you can do. I found one on Brene Brown's website under Dare to Lead. So there's a great little worksheet there that you can fill out to find out what your values are. And then once you've found them, if you kind of look at like, what are the things that I do day to day that show that I'm moving forward in my life based on what my values are, but also define when you might be doing some away moves. So yeah, I might say that health is really important to me, but yet I'm smoking or vaping or something like that. So then that goes, okay, that's creating some inner stress because that's not in line with my values. Could be, yeah, that being kind is really important to you and you're able to do that with others, but maybe not to yourself. So with this action, it's pick something small, something that you know that you can do. Make it important to you because it should be based on your values, because then it's internally motivated, not externally motivated. Yeah, if you value kindness, you might use that by giving yourself a rest and going to bed early. And also the premise of this is we're stepping out of our comfort zones to do this. So you won't necessarily feel good about it. It could have an edge to it, might be a bit of a challenge, but it's something that you can actually do and you feel good about doing it. So what could you do that would help you move forward in your life and into a more meaningful life? So just to kind of summarize, anxiety is a part of life. It's not a problem to get rid of. When it shows up, you can accept it, notice what you're feeling, take care of yourself, and then use mindfulness to support the acceptance to live your values. So that's any thoughts or questions that you might have. Yeah. Maybe it could unshare the stop sharing because I don't know how to stop sharing it.
Oh, no worries. Well, thank you so much, Lana, for a fantastic presentation. That was wonderful. So great to learn more a little bit about what content you're going through in this program, but also so amazing to have it shared with us today. So yeah, without further ado,
I should just say, sorry, that we have groups happening this winter. We have a virtual, like an online group for youth, anybody on Vancouver Island. And we have a group happening up at UVic. And out in the West Shore, Pacific Centre Family Services is doing a youth program. But yeah, you can also get in touch with me if you have any questions or anything.
Yeah. And after the session tomorrow, we will send out an email with the contact information for our presenters. So if you have any questions about the content that we've gone through today, about joining any of the following programs, we'll send that out as well. Yes, thank you for your question, Michael. We will, along with that, also be sending the link to the session recording. So you'll be able to go back, watch everything that we've covered today, and then we'll send some of those resources, additional resources along with it. Amazing. Thank you so much, Lana. Well, without further ado, then I'm going to hand it over to Bridges for Women, and we have Mariana here to present.
Hello, can you see me? Hear me?
Yes.
Yes, well, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. I am Mariana. I am a program facilitator here at Bridges for Women, and I'm here with my coworker, Sophie. Sophie, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm really looking forward to being here. Yeah, as Mariana said, my name's Sophie. I'm an employment programs co-facilitator with Bridges for Women. I've been with them for just about a year now, and I'm really excited to get to be here today with all of you.
Thank you, Sophie. All right, so very glad that you all took the time to share this space with us today. Before we get started, we want to introduce the organization. So Bridges for Women is an organization that supports and inspires women that have been affected by trauma, abuse, and neglect. We support them to reclaim their lives and build financial security through our programs. So we do have counseling and psychoeducation and life skills workshops to support women get back on their feet. Our services are open to all women, transgender and cisgender, non-binary individuals, two-spirit people, or anyone who identifies as part of the women's community and that have been impacted by trauma at any point in their lives. So everything we do here at Bridges is grounded in a trauma-informed, empowerment-based approach. So all our programs are focused on building life skills, reducing shame, strengthening self-esteem, rebuilding that sense of self and identity, and recovering, going through all that process of healing after the impacts of trauma. So that's what we do. And today we are here to present, let me see if I can share my screen. Can you see my screen? Is it sharing? Okay, great. So managing stress and anxiety over the holidays. The holiday season can be a very joyful time, but it can also bring up a lot of stress, a lot of pressure, loneliness, feelings of overwhelm, and any other triggers, you know? So today we're gonna be exploring why this happens. And we're gonna be building a very simple, very practical tool to support us through this season. So we'll move through the different topics. So I think I have an agenda over here. There you go. So we're gonna talk about what comes up around the holidays, what triggers are, and how trauma responses work. We're gonna talk about what emotional regulation is and what grounding is. We're also gonna have a guided grounding exercise. And then we're going to talk about creating a practical, personalized self-care toolkit. And then at the end, we're going to be sharing some resources and how to contact us and all of that. So the goal for today is not to force positivity or to pretend that the holidays are easy and that everyone has a great time. Instead, we're here to understand our nervous system, normalize some of these emotions and reactions and feelings that can come up, and give you practical tools that you can take home and support you through these challenging times. All right, so now Sophie is going to lead us with a poll activity about what comes up around the holidays.
Yeah, thank you for that, Mariana. So we're going to start our discussion today with a little poll that's just talking about what comes up for you around the holidays. So I'm going to share it in the chat. I don't know if you can see that there. See? So it should pop up on your screen. And if it doesn't, that's okay too. But what I want to encourage you to do is just think about when we think about the holidays, what comes up for you? And there are so many different things that can come up here. We can have a mix of joy, of excitement. We can feel exhaustion and burnout with so many different commitments and priorities going on. There can be some financial stress, family tension, all of these different things that come up for us. Are you able to see the poll in the chat? Yeah, so whenever you get a second, if you're able to do the poll. Oh yeah, I'm seeing the responses coming up here. So I'm seeing that people are saying there's some stress, pressure, different family dynamics coming up, financial worries, lots of different things that can come up for us. So as we can see, for many of us, the holidays can be a time of multiple intersecting experiences. Um, there can be a sense of pressure ramping up around this time. The intensity of certain emotional experiences like stress, loneliness, or grief can be heightened. And sometimes there's also a little bit of this push and pull that we experience here with there's the joy and excitement of the time of year and these challenging bits too. And that's really normal. It's also, like I said, a time where many find there's financial worries that can ramp up. And the point is here that there's a lot that can be stirred up around the holidays. Yeah, and this list can go on too. So please, when we're thinking about why the holidays can be hard, there's many different reasons here. So please feel free to add your answers in the chat if you feel like there are some reasons that make the holidays difficult. So I'm going to talk about a few. Firstly, a lot of holiday traditions can bring that sense of joy and community, but it can also bring pressure and expectation. And like I've been saying, these experiences can exist at the same time, and that's okay. So for example, we might really love the tradition of sharing presents with others, and this might be something that feels uplifting or joyful, but it can also feel overwhelming finding the time to shop, selecting the perfect gift, managing the financial costs associated with that, and just generally feeling like we need to do everything perfectly. That can be a source of anxiety as well. The holidays are also traditionally a time of family gatherings, and some of us might face immediate or extended family dynamics that are unhealthy or even a source of past or current trauma, and that can be really stressful. And even just that anticipation of seeing family can also be just as stressful too. The financial strain of activities like buying presents, hosting, and buying food and travel at this time of year can also be a source of overwhelm. We might also experience some loneliness or isolation, in contrast to that image that we see of the busy social holiday season. And then there's also changes in our routines. So that can be due to things like seasonal work schedules, ramping commitments and responsibilities around this time of year, trying to get everything done before the end of the year, changes to our sleep, to our mental health and activities related to the changes in the daylight. I don't know if anybody else finds that, but when it starts to get a little bit darker during the day, it's very natural for us to feel a little bit more tired, and some of the stressors that we might normally cope with really well in the summertime might feel a little bit more challenging in the winter. For some people as well, the holidays can be and there can be anniversaries of past traumas or losses, and sometimes that can bring up memories that feel painful to remember or to re-experience. Um, and lastly, just the holidays in general can be a loud and hectic time, whether we're out and about at places like the mall. I don't know if anybody's been to Mayfair Mall recently with the Uniqlo opening, but it's been super hectic and busy, um, and then there's also just gathering with friends and family can be loud and hectic too. So that can be overstimulating for us and even triggering. And again, we can balance that with the joy and excitement too. Um, so because we're all so different and have different experiences, and um, we might all experience different joys, different challenges, different triggers at this time of year, and that's okay. We're going to move on next to talking a little bit about some very normal reactions and responses that can pop up at this time of year.
Thank you, Sophie. Yeah, so as we have already talked about it and identified, the holidays can bring up extra stress, extra pressure, and emotional overwhelm. And everyone's holiday experience is going to be different because we all have unique histories, unique triggers, different needs, and there is no one size fits all in this. So our goal today is to explore tools that we can try, and so you can practice to help you navigate this. So let's talk about what triggers are in trauma responses. So as we said at the beginning, we are an organization that focuses on trauma-informed practices. So it's important to understand that trauma is this ongoing physical, emotional, or psychological impact that remains after experiencing a distressing event. And again, this is about how the individual experiences the event, not about the event itself. And this experience can affect a person's sense of safety, a sense of self. It can affect our nervous system and how we're able to regulate ourselves. And then a trigger is anything. It can be something external, something that is in our environment, or something is internal. It can be an emotion, a thought, a flashback, anything that reminds our nervous system of any other past events or danger. And it shakes our sense of safety. So triggers can be, like I said, anything. Can be a person, can be a smell, can be conversations. So when we're talking about the holidays and celebration of Christmas, for example, the scent of pine and the scent of the Christmas tree, for some people can bring very joyful, very pleasant memories of their childhood, but for someone else, it can trigger a memory and a very painful memory of an experience. So when we're triggered, our body goes into a universal danger survival response, also called as a trauma response. Have you heard, I want to see raise of hands, have you heard of the fight flight response? Raise of hands. Yeah, okay. All right. So people are familiar with, okay, good. Yeah. So I like to call them the 4 Fs. The first F stands for fight, second, flight, freeze, and fawn. So there are 4 different trauma responses that we can experience. The first one is the flight response. So the flight response gets activated when the nervous system believes that the best way to stay safe is to stand our ground and to get big and push back. So our body's trying to protect us by giving us energy and strength to defend ourselves. So this can look like feeling irritable or suddenly angry, or we may have this urge to argue or to shout or anything like that. We can get defensive, feeling on edge. All of those feelings are tied to the fight response. And this response can have been a protective mechanism in the past when fighting back was necessary for your survival and for your sense of safety. But today, it might show up when it's not fully necessary, right? So the goal is not to judge it, but to understand it. The second response is the flight response. So on this response, the nervous system believes that safety comes from escaping, running away, leaving, avoiding the situation. Someone says here, I was looking at the chat and someone said, remaining in denial, practice escapism. Yeah, so that is the flight response. We're feeling anxious, we're feeling restless, we're feeling kind of like stuck, right? And we're feeling like we want to shut down, or we're having difficulty making decisions. We might feel like spacing out or dissociating. So that is that response. So also I was in the flight response. So we might feel like I want to avoid and I want to just run through the hills, and that I need to get out of here type of feeling. And then the first response is that one where the nervous system feels so overwhelmed and trapped when there's not an option to flight or fight, but to freeze, to get paralyzed. So this way you're protecting yourself by conserving energy, avoiding any situation of discomfort by like kind of like shutting down. And then there's the fawn response, which was the fourth one that was added. And here, our nervous system believes that the safest option is to please others, to avoid conflict by appeasing the person that might be feeling threatening, or the situation that is feeling threatening. So the body is trying to create safety by keeping the other person regulated, calm, or happy. So this can look like people pleasing, difficulty saying no, or putting someone else's needs before our own, apologizing excessively, and things like that. So this response is often developed when safety depended on keeping someone else from becoming angry or violent or unpredictable. And this is a very intelligent survival strategy. So these four responses were needed at some point in our life. And this is very important to understand, that everything that our brain does is to keep us safe. And there is nothing wrong with you for having these responses. The goal here is not to get rid of them or to fight them, or is to recognize when they're happening, to honor that were protective, that served us at some point. But the idea is to start building new tools, new ways and mechanisms to stay grounded and regulated, so your body has more choices, right? So, and with practice and with compassion, you can learn to shift from that survival mode, from that older pattern of behavior that kept you safe, or a sense of safety, into a sense of connection, and regulation. So this behavior is important to understand that it's not bad behavior necessarily, even though it can look like having big reactions or shutting down or being irritable, because they were developed as survival tools. And that is the piece that is important to understand. So we have that self-compassion and kindness to understand that everything that we have learned and the behaviors that we exhibit were there for a reason, and to keep us safe. So it's important to honor these responses and learn new ways to shift to a sense of safety. So that takes me to the emotional regulation. So emotional regulation is that ability to understand, to manage, and to respond to emotions in a way that feels more safe and grounded. So this doesn't mean stopping the emotion or force yourself to be calm, because I don't know if this is if you can relate to this, but when you're feeling overwhelmed or you're having feelings, if someone says just stay calm or just be calm or just cool, that doesn't feel very helpful, because fighting the feeling and fighting the emotion is not a very helpful way. Rather, embracing that and honoring the feeling, because all of these emotions that are happening are good information that something might not be landing all that well or might be great with us. So it's important to first notice what that emotion is, understanding that what your nervous system is doing is like, okay, I understand now that this is a trauma response and that my nervous system and my brain is just trying to keep me safe, and having tools to bring you back to the present moment. It was discussed earlier how staying in the past with those memories and sadness and depression and grief can bring us down. And if our mind stays in the future, in what is unknown or unpredictable, or what we don't, all the future possibilities, it can bring up a lot of anxiety. So is moving from living in the past or living in the future to being in the present moment, to the here and the now, and fostering that internal sense of safety. So when we're dysregulated, our thinking brain kind of like goes offline. So when we are in that survival state, is our primitive brain that is like kicking off and keeping us safe. But our prefrontal cortex, or thinking brain, that one that makes decisions, that does the problem solving and all of that, kind of like goes offline. So I don't know if you have heard of the term like, oh, I saw red, or that the person was like so angry or so frustrated that they were not even listening to what someone else was saying, because that thinking brain was offline. However, in the spirit of understanding emotional regulation, I would like to share one of my favorite quotes by Viktor Frankl, which was one of my favorite authors. And he said that between the stimulus and the response, there is a space. And in that space is our power to choose our response. And in that response lies our growth and our freedom. We have a window between the trigger and the reaction. So this is, I feel that this emphasizes our human capacity to make conscious choice, to have control over our reactions. So in other words, is building that self-agency and choosing to respond to a situation in a healthy or helpful way, rather than reacting to it from that escalated emotion. So now that we have talked about what a trigger is and trauma responses and emotional regulation, you might be wondering like, okay, so what can I start doing now to support myself navigating these difficult times? So that takes me to the next topic, which is grounding. Grounding is and again, raise of hands if you have heard of grounding techniques, grounding tools. Maya, okay. Okay, I see hands up, 4 hands up. Okay. All right. Like, I'm very glad to hear that people are familiar with these tools. That's great. So grounding is that coping strategy that brings your awareness back to the present moment. It connects from that dwelling over the past or wondering about the future, and it brings us to the here and the now. It connects to ourselves, to our bodies, and our surroundings. So and it helps settle those big emotions and regulate our nervous system. So basically, we're going from the sympathetic system, which is that survival mode, to the parasympathetic system when we're being able to think, to process, to make choices. And there are like tons of everyday grounding activities that you might already intuitively do, like walking, coloring, gardening, doing dishes, cleaning the house, things like that. Would you be able to share in the chat maybe other grounding techniques that you practice or that you like doing that brings you that sense of peace, calm? Walking in nature. Oh, yes. Listening to a specific playlist. I love that. Dancing. Yes. I'm a dancer too. Get the body moving. Doing crafts and painting. Yeah. I'm not super crafty. I don't have the skills, but they're not very good. But nature, dancing, picture etching right now. Amazing. Improv comedy. Love it. Yes, all of these tools that we already do, we have more tools than we might consciously know. So now the idea is to bring all of those activities and tools and the things, because remember that there's no one size fits all when it comes to grounding and emotional regulation. It's what works for you. I heard today in my workshop, someone said uh, the best practice is the one that you can stick to, because it's not just adding this whole overwhelming list of things to do that becomes this endless chore, and then it becomes even more stressful and more anxiety driven. Like, I didn't do my 5 meditations today, and I didn't journal for 3 hours, and that can create more stress, right? So it's like something that can be manageable, that can be sustainable, and that you enjoy, right? If for you walking in nature works, great. Maybe for someone else is dancing. Maybe someone doesn't like dancing, but maybe listening to music. I love singing in the shower or in the car by myself, because no one wants to hear that. But I just like to get that and regulate myself and just be in that present moment. So there are different ways to ground ourselves. One can be the physical grounding. And I believe Ilana walked us through the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 technique. So that is a fantastic one, because you're bringing your awareness and your attention away from that rumination and that overthinking to the present moment. And you're connecting to the things that you can see, that you can feel, that you can hear. So that is the physical grounding. It can, for some people, can be yoga or stretching or anything like that. You can do some mental grounding. So some people can do counting or counting backwards or doing alphabet or categories, things like that. There's the self-soothing talk. So that's that gentle inner dialogue. So we're shifting from that inner critic and that, like, maybe not very helpful thoughts to a more soothing and calming affirmations, like, I am safe, this moment will pass, I've got this. I don't know if some of you can think of that moment when something's going to happen, or you're going to encounter that person that doesn't you don't feel great about, and then you just take a deep breath in and you say, I've got this. That is grounding. That is emotional regulation. Those are things that we already do. And so now we need to start practicing more intentionally. And there's a lot of breathing techniques. There's the box breathing, the counting breathing, the alternative nostril breathing. There's many